This is Happy Diwali to everybody in the studio and all your viewers from New York. So I'm joining you from New York.
Wonderful. You've really stayed late for this show. So really, thank you very much for that.
No, thanks for having me on show. It's always a pleasure to be with you guys. You guys.
Uh, well, it's been a good year. And it's been a good year for, it's just one of the years where the retail guys are saying that we managed to beat the fund managers. The small cap index has done 30% and the index has given not solid returns. Market fund managers are positioned largely in IT and banks. Those are sectors which have underperformed. So really, on a lighter side, the retail guys are saying that this year we managed to beat the fund manager. Will you guys come back next year?
Yeah, let them be happy for a year. See, what we were focused on was on downside protection. And look, that is also a very important part of the game. So that is okay. As long as there is money in the market, people have made money in the market. That money will find way to large caps next year. So perfectly fine with the outcome.
Discussing today is a massive outperformance in PSUs, a massive comeback in small cap stocks, underperformance in banks, and a shaky year for IT. What are the trends you think we are likely to discuss same time next
Okay.
year when we are discussing the next Samvat year?
So if you look at rewind of what has happened over the year is we saw all this narrative of peaking of inflation which came through. We had Fed which was expanding balance sheet post the regional banking crisis in the US in Feb, and that's where we saw outperformance of mid caps in India. But clearly, if you see things are slowing down, the economic results which are coming out are a bit weaker than what was before. And we believe going into elections, as uncertainty is there, things are still going to slow down. So we would be cautious here. We've been cautious last 3, 4 months. It's kind of a played out in a way, and still be cautious here. Continue to be defensively positioned, and somewhere around March, April, as we get some clarity, more towards I would say April, May, as we get clarity around elections, as we get clarity that look we are closer to central banks coming and cutting rates and growth getting accelerated in the second half of 2024, we'll be taking a more kind of an, I would say, aggressive stance on market, moving more towards the cyclical part of the market. But right now, we would be a bit cautious here.
Okay. Why that caution though? Because Rahul, there are not many available options out there, A. And the yield, which had spiked up all the way to 5 plus, that also has softened since. I mean, what I'm trying to
So
say is that there aren't as many attractive bets as India within at least the EM pool.
I think that the challenge markets world over have is not from other equity markets, but from fixed income. I think you said it yourself. If you've got US 10-year giving 4.5%, and if you look at the yields in India, 7.5%, that's an attractive yield. And somewhere that sets the cost of capital for everything else in the economy. And that is going to take allocations from equities. Look, India is a great story, and we believe that India, along with US, is going to be the story to watch for the decade to come, which is why this market is going to be bought into every dip. But we've seen over the last 12 months, the market's not gone anywhere. Even with mid caps, if you look at post the high these mid caps touched in kind of a May, June, they've been fairly range bound since then.
Let's assume that interest rates, they have peaked out. Let's assume. Nobody knows. Even Fed doesn't know where rates are moving. But let's assume as market observers that interest rates, they peak out and they go down rather than they go up in next 12 months. Then what happens to the positioning of risk, flows, and also underlying valuations?
Okay. So what happens in Nikunj market doesn't have an appetite, I would say, beyond 6, 9 months. Market is willing to look at, let's say, growth acceleration, things improving in next 6 months. But if it doesn't happen in 6 months, there is always this doubt that, like the way policymakers were behind the curve when inflation was coming back, are they going to be behind the curve when growth is slowing down? And sitting here in US, you see clear signs of growth slowing down. You look at the employment data which came through. So our view is over next 6 months, narrative is going to be that look, growth is slowing down and policymakers are still worried about inflation, and that's where markets would kind of correct a bit. But we would take that as a buying opportunity. Let's say, should the markets fall about 10 to 15%, that would be a buying opportunity, because eventually we're seeing demand normalizing. We're seeing kind of the goods inflation going away. All this inflation which came in shipping rates has significantly receded. So eventually, central banks would cut rates. Eventually, growth is going to accelerate, and that is where you will see the earnings follow through coming through. That's where you will see the multiple expansion happening, and that is when you will get a true bull market. See, right now, it seems like that we are making a lot of effort, but anywhere. And I think that scenario is going to continue for next at least 3 to 4 months before we break out of this range and go into another bull market.
Right. Rahul, you were alluding to the fact that it's whenever, the FI money comes back to India post the election uncertainty, of course, it's going to find its way into cyclicals. What within cyclicals would you bet on?
So again, it's going to be industrials, which have done well in this cycle. What we've seen is a reversal of the trends of last decade. Last decade was China was the one investing, everybody else was underinvesting. Now, because of nearshoring, friendshoring, or all these infrastructure spends which are happening in India, particularly, we are seeing a great kind of a times for the investment cycle. So industrials is something that should do well. We should see end of the underperformance from banks. Some of the other cyclicals like real estate would continue to do well. A big surprise this year has been, despite rates being high, real estate doing well, and I think that momentum continues. Outside that, autos, commodities would be ones to look at. I see they've been beaten down, and we've got a call on commodities, right? We were kind of bullish as we came out of COVID, but about 18 to 20 months back, we went negative that space. I think commodities is something we would constructively evaluate in next 5 to 6 months.
Avtar, we can talk stocks. No compliance, we can talk stocks.
see,
No. I'm right here. Caught you. तब राहुल चड्ढा की दिवाली पिक्स क्या है जी, बता दो जल्दी से, लिख लेते हैं, पेन पेपर रेडी है.
Okay, दिवाली पिक्स देखो ज्यादा चेंज नहीं हुई. आई थिंक बैंक्स आप चूज करो, चाहे आपको आईसीआईसीआई एक्सेस पसंद है. Hospitals, real estate is a space we've liked. Hospitals में Narayan, Fortis, Medanta, these are the names. Real estate, you look at Prestige Sova, these are the names we've had in our portfolio. We've done well. Consumption should do well. I think consumption in 12 months from now should recover. We've liked Zomato. In fact, you would remember me for that, and that's been one of the amazing calls we've had. The companies really surprised us on execution, very positively surprised us on execution. So Zomato, some of these QSR space like Westlife are there. And then I think metals would be attractive contrarian bets. So look at Tata Steel, Hindalco. I think these would be interesting bets in about 5 to 6 months from now. So a lot of buy ideas. Buy ideas की कोई कमी नहीं है.
What is the Diwali?
It's on record. I was actually sitting spellbound that Rahul Chadha is talking stocks.
New Avtar. Things change in his new Avtar. Okay.
New
New
Avtar,
Samvat, new ideas, and new stock idea. That is important. So, what is the Diwali like in New York? What are you planning?
Diwali, see, again, we've still got 2 days for formal Diwali celebrations, but look, the house fully decorated, so you can see Delhi lights in New York. So this is one of the houses which stands out in the lane, and clearly the Diwali celebrations are full on here.
The chaat and all the yummy stuff from back home for sure.
Absolutely.
Delhi lights in New York. क्या बात है? Punchline है. Delhi lights in New York. It's a nice thing actually to have.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Thanks for this, and wish you again a happy Diwali.
Wish you
Happy
the same
Diwali.
and your family as well. Enjoy